Greetings and welcome. My name is Narisa Rashid. I'm the host of today's ASQ Lean Enterprise Division webinar. We hold these webinars once each month and they are free to all our members. Our webinars are recorded, so the previous webinars are available on the ASQ Lean Enterprise Division YouTube channel. Presenting today on the topic ASQ Lean Enterprise Division e-learning portal are Frank Madad of the Lean Enterprise Division and Carol Dioff of OpusWorks. Frank is an independent consultant and industrial engineer and the professional development chair of the Lean Enterprise Division. Carol Dioff is senior vice president of OpusWorks, which has been in partnership with ASQ providing learning products to ASQ members for over 15 years. And our next month's webinar topic is the essence of Lean, presented by David Hines. Some logistics: everyone will be on mute, but you're free to post questions to Carol and Frank as you think of them. They have reserved about 10 minutes at the end to answer your questions, which we will take one at a time. And here's Frank to start our presentation.
Thank you, Narisa.
Thanks, Frank. Welcome, Frank. Thank you. I'll turn my mute.
Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending upon where you may be tuned in from. Again, my name is Frank Murdoch, and with me is Carol Deerdorf. Carol is with OpusWorks, and I am, like Narisa said, the Professional Development Chair at the Lean Enterprise Division, and we're here to talk to you about the e-learning portal, which is something that we've put together over the last year in conjunction with OpusWorks as a opportunity to provide learning to our members, ASQ members of the division. So let me go through our outline. We've had the introductions. We'll talk about what is the ASQ LED e-learning portal. Who is OpusWorks? We'll talk about the features, the uses of the portal, and we'll go through a couple demonstrations to give you a sense as to how it works. And then we'll summarize and take questions. So just to start with, this is a screenshot of the portal itself. It basically has two components. We've got training on Lean as well as training on Lean leadership. And you'll see later that there's a list of several courses that are really composed of some individual modules. We're going to give you a sense of what some of those modules are, but we have something like 73 different modules that are configurable, and so there's a lot of different ways that this portal can be used. I'm going to ask Carol to talk a little bit about OpusWorks.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Again, this is Carol Deerdorf with OpusWorks, and OpusWorks, by the quality group, several of you might know the quality group. We've been around about 26 years in the technology solutions business, providing process improvement services and solutions to a variety of corporate clients as well as government. I work with a lot of colleges and universities, various manufacturers, to provide a blend for e-learning as well as support for classrooms initiatives. The platform that we have is we call a cross-platform, and what that means is the content is available through the desktop, your mobile phone, anywhere there is web access. And we are partnered with ASQ, as Frank mentioned, to provide resources to us members to look at a variety of different ways that you may be able to incorporate Lean in your various roles, to provide a different way maybe of finding something online, as even considered like pre-work. And again, the content is available anywhere there is web access. I think this addresses the various places, your phone, your desktop. I think we can go to the next slide, Frank. Go ahead.
So this shows two different components of the way the portal is organized. Part of it is associated with Lean, and we've got two basic courses, online courses available, Lean Essentials and Lean Basics. And they're intended to give people fundamental understanding of what Lean is and how it applies. The other aspect, very important to Lean, is leadership. And there's three different courses under the leadership category: leadership communications, leadership change management, leadership conflict resolution. As anybody who's been involved in process improvement, quality improvement of any kind, you know that these are critical elements for success. And so this provides a platform which you can get sponsors and stakeholders of such initiatives up to speed in a relatively consistent way. There's also, as part of the store, if you notice, let me just go back a little bit here. There's at the top of the menu, there is a series of things, including a store, contact, help, register, login. So those buttons get you access to some of these sites, these pages. And so this shows you the courses that we're talking about and the pricing associated with it. Now, pricing is for non-Lean Enterprise Division members. There's a 10% price discount that once you logged in gets applied, but provides, again, a mechanism where you can help your organization through these various learning options and have a consistent way of providing this information. When you look at the features of an e-learning portal, the advantage is it's self-paced, on demand, whenever and wherever you want. This particular set of modules is very comprehensive, and it goes, as we discussed, from the basics of Lean Essentials, things like 5S, 8 Ways, etc., to more advanced, very different kinds of topics in terms of Lean leadership. The content's been reviewed and approved by ASQ Lean Enterprise Division. It includes quizzes to check comprehension, and you'll see that as we go through some of the demonstrations. And it can be tailored. We've got some specific courses you may have noticed for healthcare, for office and surface, as well as the more traditional manufacturing applications. And then these are customizable and suitable for blended and classroom learning.
Yes, and I was going to interject. We had a specific situation where it was a gentleman that contacted me from Ohio. They provide education training, and he had a lot of public work as well. And he wanted to provide some basic information. They were conducting a Greenbelt series class that was coming up maybe in 6 weeks, but there was maybe a lack of knowledge or not real familiar with some students that needed to be more or less brought up to speed with some of the basic concepts. So he contacted me and decided he got to choose. We talked about the various modules that we have in Lean and also in Six Sigma. He chose Introduction to Six Sigma as well as Introduction to Lean as pre-work before they came into the classroom. And I think there was like 10 students that participated. And I had the feedback that I had, it worked very, very well. So those students had some familiarity with the terms and the information, some of the concepts before they came into the classroom, and were more or less up to speed to kind of jump in maybe in the middle, not necessarily the middle, but the beginning of a Greenbelt class itself. So he was very pleased and thought that, you know, he could see other applications. I wanted to bring that to your attention because that worked out really well.
Thank you, Carol. I think all of us, at least who've been at this for a while, recognize that pre-work is really critical for lots of our face-to-face learning. And I'll say this also, unless you actually have an opportunity to apply these concepts, these tools, you know, the learning isn't complete. So I think the real advantage of an e-learning portal is provide a different, more engaging mechanism to get that pre-work done. Traditionally, we send out papers, white papers, even books for people to read in advance. And of course, half the people coming into the course will have not have even read them, right? But this provides a more engaging mechanism. And Carol, I'm going to ask you a question with regard to if I were to send this out, say I had a class of a dozen people that I wanted to get up to speed on Lean and have them take Lean Essentials, for instance. Would I be able to know whether they went through the course or not ahead of time?
Yes, absolutely. There's our system, our system is called OpusWorks Cloud 3, and we have a complete administration system which includes drill down reports. You can even drill down to see what questions they missed if they're taking like the post tests or not the knowledge test, because that's just practice. But if we set up the post test, you can see how they did, how long they were in a module. Each module's absolutely, we can drill down, and that information I can provide to you.
Yeah, so that
or you could do it yourself. Yeah.
Sure, that provides then the instructor, whoever is leading that, some insight. Both are they ready, as well as perhaps some insight in terms of areas of emphasis where you as an instructor might need to provide a little extra time, concentration on some of the concepts that they may be having some difficulty with.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. If we look at who can use the e-learning portal, we've got it there primarily for Lean Enterprise Division members. That doesn't mean it can't be available for others, but for anybody beginning their Lean journey. And there are a lot of people, for instance, we were just early last week, we were at the Phoenix Lean and Six Sigma conference, and every year I find this to be true. There's lots of people, there's over 600 people attending, and at least half the people I met, this was their first exposure to Lean and Six Sigma. So the good thing is that there's still organizations that are beginning their journey. And then the experienced practitioners, the idea of people who need to train others in Lean, use this as Carol discussed, as a way of part of their organizational transformation. prospective members who want to learn about lean, organizations who need to train others in lean, anyone interested in learning lean principles and methods. Before we got actually on the webinar, Carol was discussing some interactions she's had with various school systems around the country and how they're interested in introducing high schoolers and people in trade school to these concepts. So there's a lot of different opportunities. And Carol just did discuss the Ohio member that is integrating this portal into Prework for their Lean Six Sigma Green Belt class. You want to say anything more about that?
Yeah, I was just going to, reiterate what you said about, we're dealing with adult learners here that, the self-paced interactivity. People have different learning styles. That is another strong point, but also saving of time. And again, the key here is that the gentleman I was working with is Brad Hollingsworth in Ohio, and he said he didn't have to stand up there and lecture on what is lean, right? He was able to jump right into talking about the application, and then everybody being kind of on the same page. So it just, I don't know what he said, it saved 2/3 of his time or whatever, but it was very significant, the impact and the effectiveness of the e-learning for the pre-work before his class.
Good, thank you. Yeah, let's get into a couple demonstrations of what's available on the portal. This first one is a demo that anybody going to the portal has access to. It's a little video presentation on lean leadership, and it kind of walks through it in a fairly quick way. The portal, the way it's structured, the way things are accessible. And after we do that, then we're actually going to walk through a portion of the 8 wastes module that will give you a better real-time sense of how the system works. So let's take a look at lean leadership first. Okay, so that's a little sampler that's available that kind of gives you the sense of the breadth of the lean leadership learning material that's available, and also gives you a sense for how the portal interacts with individual users, where they log on, and the opportunity to tailor what they need to their specific learning requirements. Carol, do you have anything to add at this point?
No, I think that again that the demo is available on the website, but also, and I think we covered this at the next slide, that any module that someone would like to preview, you can give them the 30-day access and set up a demo class, a demo student, be happy to share that information with them. And again, the leadership is such a key thing, and working with other organizations, we've been really incorporating in other programs. And in fact, there was just an article that was sent to me from LinkedIn about the top missing skill sets. Probably not a surprise, is the interpersonal skills, the soft skills, the leadership skills, diversity, dealing with all those topics. So we're very pleased that we have, some modules that address these particular skill gaps.
Good. Okay. So let's jump in and learn a little bit about 8 waste using the e-learning portal.
Welcome to this short module, The Waste of Waiting. Take a moment to familiarize yourself with our module interface. When you're ready, select the next button to continue.
So I'm just going to poke around here a little bit here, just to show this is what they call the module map. Shows the outline basically of the module.
Take a moment to familiarize yourself with our module interface. When you're ready, select the next button to continue.
On the right here, you see there's the closed caption. So for people who are perhaps hearing impaired, there's a visual text of what's being spoken. And then, of course, there's the next button.
In this module, we'll describe the waste of waiting in detail and give examples. This waste of waiting occurs when the processing time for internal supplying differs from the processing time for receiving, resulting in times of inactivity. Waiting often results in inefficient use of people and/or equipment. Idle people and machines are sometimes given busy work, which is non-value adding and may create overproduction of goods.
So you can see how the learning uses visual video to reinforce the concepts being presented.
An operator waiting for materials to arrive in order to start a machine, a process stopped as it waits quality department approval, and a truck driver waiting for paperwork to be delivered or approved before loading product are clear examples of how waiting causes waste in a production environment. In an office environment, examples of how waiting causes waste include meetings that start late when some people have arrived on time, standing by the printer when documents ahead in the queue are still printing, or being placed on hold when calling customer service.
So here again, you can see how OpusWorks, in conjunction with the Lean Enterprise Division, is really looking to provide alternative contexts for these same concepts. You got the standard manufacturing production approach, but you also have it from the office perspective. So you'll see that throughout the learning.
Before we conclude, let's check your knowledge of the topics presented in this module.
Okay, I don't know if we're ready for this, but we'll try it, okay?
Demonstrate your understanding of waste. Drag each type of waste on the left to its proper match on the right. When you're finished, select the next button to continue.
Okay, so waiting. Let's see, making 100 copies of the document, only 50 are needed. I don't think that's it. Waiting, providing more packaging than the customer requires. Don't think so. Waiting, typographical errors. I don't think that's it either. So it must be being on time for a meeting that starts late. Sounds like waiting to me. Overproduction. Excuse me. That sounds like making 100 copies of a document when only 50 are needed. Extra processing. Probably providing more packaging than the customer requires. And the defect, typographical errors, or defects. So let's see how we did.
That's correct.
All right. So anyway, that gives you a sense.
Congratulations. You have now completed this module. You may use the map function to review any of the topics we've covered. Select the next button to exit.
So if we had difficulty, we could go back and look at map here and say, okay, let's look at those examples
An operator waiting for materials to arrive in order to start a machine. A process stopped as it waits quality department approval. And a truck driver waiting for paperwork to be delivered or approved before loading product are clear examples of how waiting causes waste in a production environment.
So you can see how, okay, you can go back and forth. This is obviously a pretty short module, but for something that covered all of the 8 ways, for instance, you can go back and forth as required in order for you to really get the concepts.
I'll interject here with we are looking at right now OpusWorks. Again, everything is going to chunk learning, like modules are. We're looking to reduce some of the time of the length of the modules. And one of the reasons we had examples of waiting or waste of waiting, we wanted to do an introductory to some of the concepts and see how that would play out by separating them out. But the 8 waste module itself is about 55 minutes. So we go through the various examples of waste, as well as looking at, again, moving forward, what it might look like to maybe separate some of these topics out and have them be maybe a shorter module. And the other thing I wanted to say about the learning design is that, again, as Frank demonstrated, is that you introduce a learning point, you explain what it is, you get to practice it, and you get, in fact, if you miss something, like you got an incorrect answer, you can go back and hear what the correct answer is and do it again, and then you move on. And again, during the modules too, there's various knowledge checks, as we just saw along the way. And that's what I wanted to provide. I think we're good. Thank you, Frank. That was well done.
Okay, you're welcome. Let's go back and look at the summary, and then we'll take questions. But so we've gone through and described, the on-demand, self-paced, comprehensive nature of the learning portal. We've shown how it's tailored for various applications, not just manufacturing. We've discussed how it's customizable, particularly in terms of augmenting face-to-face or classroom learning. We've gone through a couple demonstrations. We've shown the lean leadership demo, as well as the waste of waiting. And one thing that I think Carol wants to emphasize again is that any of these modules are free for 30 days. So you can contact Carol at this email address here, cdeerdorf@opusworks.com, and she can set you up. Anything else, Carol, before we take questions?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. Nerissa, what kind of questions have we had so far?
Um, 1 second. I have only one question in here. Why only free for ASQ members for 30 days?
Carol, you want to take a crack at it and then I can follow up?
I'm not sure I understood what the question was. Why only ASQ members? Is that what the question was?
Why only free for ASQ members for 30 days? If you are ASQ members, in other words, why is it only free for 30 days?
Oh, well, first of all, anybody that's interested in previewing a module, whether they're a member currently or not, an ASQ member or not, I'll be happy to provide them with the access to preview a module. That's the question. Is that the question, Frank?
Let me chime in here. I think part of it is like much of ASQ learning, it costs money to develop and deploy it. So these are what we feel are reasonably priced at what's currently available in the market. In fact, it's below what you typically spend, particularly if you're classroom learning. So it's a very, very efficient and effective way of training organizations without having to coordinate instructors and everything else, and spending thousands of dollars doing it. So it's not free. We can't afford to offer it absolutely free, but it does. It is and has been found to be an effective way.
Sure. And the whole idea of the 30-day access is really for someone to review the module itself to make sure that it's something that's aligned with what their objectives are in their training. So it's really just a preview. We could just say it's a pre-preview to evaluate the content in the training.
Any other questions?
Yeah, there's one more in connection with this, and they would like to know how can they get this material elsewhere for free? Why would they pay? And how is this any better than what is out there?
Wow.
So this is in continuation with the previous one.
Okay, let me take that on and take it back to our leadership team and see if there's a way. I don't know if we can offer it free, but there may be a way that we can provide better discounts. But it's not something that Carol and I are prepared to talk about at this point because it is what it is. But I think we appreciate the sentiment, and as a leadership team, we'll take it back and figure out what we can do to address it.
There's one more question in here. Are RUs applied? So I'm not very clear on this question, but
that's recertification units, RUs.
oh, okay.
Yeah, they would be applied. You'd have to look at the length and but for recertification purposes, this is very, very good training for that, yes.
Thank you, Frank. I have one more in here as how do I take advantage of the 10% discount available to me?
I'm going to throw that to Carol because she's got a mechanism for doing that.
How does it initiate it? There's a code that we provide.
Yeah.
That's the question.
Okay, thank you.
Special code, discount code that that we would provide Lean Enterprise Division members. Yes.
Yeah.
We have one more in here. How has this e-learning portal been typically used so far?
Carol, you
I
want
think
to read
I think
the example that you
I
gave?
can I think I can read I think I can uh, address that question, and Frank, you might want to go ahead and maybe add to my comments. We've had a relationship, as I mentioned earlier, with ASQ for about for many years, 15 years or plus. And as a result of meeting with the leadership team of the ASQ LED leadership team, we felt it would be an advantage to members to build an e-learning portal that would provide this information, the lean topics, as well as lean leadership. And that actually just started last year. In fact, it was when we met in, I guess it was, I can't remember where we were, maybe it was Seattle last year, that we met. Then we formed a more formal relationship. And it was also decided that since this is, OpusWorks, this is our area of expertise and our focus, that I would become my part of my focus would be to support the portal, support the learning, support the members, to really provide the additional information, because I'm very familiar, obviously, with the content, the way the portal works. And we just thought that would be really a good partnership and relationship to provide the members, resources and support. So really, this particular webinar, I would say, is like our kickoff. Also, I know that last week at the conference in Phoenix, there was information that was provided, a network event, as well as brochures. But this is really, I would say, our launch pad for the portal, as well as providing the information and circulating it, having it be on the website, and getting more people and members familiar with the content itself, as well as how easy it is to have access to the information.
I think I would add by saying that, reiterating this is a beginning, so we don't have a lot of history, but what we have had, particularly from the Ohio member experience, where he used it to help level set, to get everybody at the same level for lean concepts prior to his face-to-face classroom course for his organization. I imagine there are going to be many different applications for this as we move forward, but certainly that's the one that to me makes the most sense, because you can go through these things, there's a little practice, but you also have to apply it in your individual context. And I don't think there's anything that replaces a face-to-face experience in that. But we'll see.
Nothing replaces that. This necessarily replaces it, right? But that's all the e-learning does, or online training does. It just really sets up more effective human interaction. And also, just talk about the ASQ approval of the content itself. As far as, again, we've been in this space for over 26 years. Our clients include AT&T, Bank of America, Southwest Airlines, Gallo Wine, some of the very large corporations, the Air Force, the Army, 50 different colleges I work with, the Manufacturer Association. So there's definitely been, there's a lot of I'd say, resource and development, and always looking to improve whatever we can, that the content is current and that it is the highest quality possible that we deliver. And I would make a comment about the difference between free, but I'll leave that one alone. But if you look at e-learning, it's about $15,000 to $20,000 to create about 20 minutes of really high quality e-learning. But I just wanted to reiterate, this is what we do, and this is what we're always looking for ways to provide this information, these materials to the ASQ as members. And I'm excited to be able to to answer any questions that you might have, and make sure that you have my phone number and email address before we that can be circulated. Frankie, I'm sure you can make sure that happens.
Yes, and I'd like to also emphasize, and thank everybody for participating. And I'm going to make a commitment that we're going to carry the feedback back on, try to think of any barriers, financial or otherwise, that would prevent people from utilizing this resource. So we're going to figure it out, if, particularly if people have some cost issues, that this, even though we feel it's reasonably priced, is still going to be prohibitive. We'll talk about it. We're going to talk about ways to make this more accessible to everybody who needs it. So we want to continue the dialogue.
Do we have any last minute questions so far? I think we don't. So I'll wrap this up. I would like to thank Frank and Carol for taking the time to share with us very important and interesting information about the learning opportunities available through our e-learning portal. As I said earlier, the presentation is now recorded and will be posted on the ASQ Lean Enterprise Division YouTube channel later this week. I want to remind you on April 10th at 1:30 Eastern Time, David Hines will be presenting our next webinar, The Essence of Lean. Thanks to everyone for participating in today's webinar. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you.